a little bit about myself, and I won't go into my full story, but I want you to know a little bit about me. So, my my parents are immigrants. My dad immigrated here. My dad, fled a civil war. He was not a refugee. He did come here on an academic scholarship, and he came like many immigrants. They have a similar story, with dollars in his pocket. I mean, literally dollars. Like when I say dollar, maybe $100 or $75. Obviously, as my dad gets older, that number changes all the time, right? But he didn't come here with a lot of money, and my dad's done very well financially. My dad worked for the federal government for 41 years. My mom ran a home daycare, and so I grew up with a lot of kids in the house. My mom had a legitimate home daycare. It was inspected, licensed, insured, all that stuff. And we'd have 10 to 15 kids at my mom at our house every day. My mom could stay home with us. My parents were big on education. My older sister went to UVA. My dad has a PhD. My mom has a master's in engineering. So my mom stayed and did school work with us, and would walk us to the bus stop and make sure we come home okay and all that stuff. And she didn't want to really work outside the home. So she created a business, and my dad made, a little more than $100,000 a year when he retired, but, about 100,000 his entire career. My mom made 100,000, and my dad saved, and my parents saved all that money. So my mom had a home daycare for at least 15 to 20 years, making $100,000 a year, and my dad saved all that money. And my parents have done wonderful things. We would take an overseas trip. My parents immigrated here from Bangladesh. We would take a trip there almost every year for the summer for 6 to 12 weeks, which is not cheap to fly internationally with a family of 5. And my dad and mom have built orphanages. They donate a lot of money. They paid for all of our kids' colleges. So I had great examples of what to do financially. Okay. And always remember, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. Okay. Income is important, but it's part of the equation. And how do you know if somebody's wealthy is how long can you live off of your investments? Okay. I don't care how big of a house you have, what kind of car you drive. If you can't live off your investments, you're broke. Okay. So if you got nothing saved and you're out of work and you can't live 2 months, you're broke. I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I don't mean that in an offensive way, but I don't want to be ambiguous. And I want you to. So my dad was a crazy saver. Okay. Crazy saver. I mean, my dad, I think until a couple years, that was the first time he bought a new car. And when I say a new car, he bought a Toyota Camry. So it's not like, my dad has money. He has properties. He's invested. When we'd go to, McDonald's, we'd all get something and we'd share a soda. You know what I mean? Like we all didn't get our own meal. My dad is frugal, cheap, stingy, whatever you want to call it. I had great examples. My dad never had debt. All of his, the house that I grew up in, we moved in 1989 or 1987. I was 7 years old, and my dad stayed there, so he's paid it off. All those things. And here I am, and I grow up here, and this is the point of this story. I grow up here in America. I was born in West Virginia. I moved to Virginia when I was 1. I took all the mathematics and financial courses. I'm an accounting and finance major. I graduated from college. I had no debt, none. My parents paid for my college. I was on the family cell phone plan. I had a hand-me-down car, so I didn't have a car payment. I was on the family insurance, so I had no car insurance. My parents didn't charge me rent. I literally had 0 bills. And I had a job working at SAIC right here in Tyson's Corner, making $35,000 a year. But I still had debt. Think about that. How do you have debt? You have a job and no bills. Well, that was me. That's how stupid I was financially. My parents, as good of examples as my parents were, and I love my parents. I mean, I don't want to be blasphemous, but I basically worship my parents. My daddy's my hero, but he never taught me about money. Don't talk about money. No, we just didn't talk about it. Even though my dad was well-versed, he's financially literate, he made good financial decisions. We never talked about money. So I didn't know how credit cards work. I didn't know, I heard things, you build up your credit. And not only did I have credit card debt, which remember, if you have credit card debt or really any debt, but definitely credit card debt, that means you can't pay your bills. Some of my bills were in collections. I wasn't even paying them. I was so irresponsible. I was like, who cares? I don't need to pay that. So that was a major factor that determined why I got started with the company. I wanted to learn about money. I knew I was going to be using money every day. I tell people all the time, you're born in a money game, you die in a money game, but you got to learn the rules if you want to win. And that's all I wanted to do, was be successful financially. I'm not greedy. I don't want to hurt anybody. And so that was something that really attracted me to the company. I want to learn about money. And listen, I have 3 young children, right? I have a 10-year-old, I have an 8-year-old, I have a 4-year-old. My 10-year-old, my son, I'm starting to talk to him about money and investing. And I mean it, he knows about these things. I'm explaining what a stock is and owning companies and, like people, like they'll say stuff, they'll give my son, money for his birthday or something. And then they'll say, hey, make sure you put this in the bank. And I'll pull my son aside and say, hey, we don't put money in the bank. You invest that money. We don't save money, we invest money. And I explain, he's like, okay, daddy, what's investing? When you invest, you get your money back and then some when you save. And I'll explain to him these things. And he doesn't know what's going on, but he's going to hear it over and over again. Why? I want to teach him about money. Because I want him to have a great financial education. And that is why I love our company. I've come a long way since being 23 years old. Obviously time, but also practicing the financial principles that I'm going to talk to you about today and the concepts that I've shared with people. And the gratification that it's almost like paid volunteer work. Now, we're not a social services company. We do this because we get paid and we make money and it makes money for the clients, but the client always wins more than we do. And if you see that down in my presentation, it says a common sense guide. We don't have anything exotic or confusing or sexy. Write this down. I always say to people, if you confuse, you lose. If you confuse the client, you lose the client. So they say the mark of a great communicator is your ability to dumb down a complicated subject. See, teachers, a lot of them complicate simplified concepts. We simplified complicated things in communicating. So remember, this is how our class works. Your training is going to work in 3 ways. And when you graduate class, you got to be certified. Okay. So number 1, you have to get your state license. You need to enroll in your online Zoom class or go to physical class if you're in a different state that offers that. 2, complete this 12-week course. We start every week at 9:30. We do our announcements, then we break up. And usually if we break up around 9:50, I'll start this at 10. And then we go from 10 to 11. Okay. That's when class is over. My office manager, she'll get on, she'll check the attendance. We check our registration to verify it. And my challenge for you is to complete 12 weeks in a row. Okay. And then you have to go on 10 qualified meetings with your trainer. That's where you're really going to learn what to do. Okay. Now, so what is our product? Okay. If you say, okay, what is our product? Do you do insurance? Yes. Do you do retirement? Yes. Do you do college savings plans? Yes. Do you set up wills for people? Yes. We do all those things. But if you had to really ask what our product is, it's the financial plan. It's the financial plan. Now, I understand financial planning can be very intimidating for people. It's like stepping on the scale. People don't want to see it. They want to put it under the rug and hopefully it'll take care of itself. That's never the right solution. I believe, and I know from helping thousands of clients, the key to long-term financial success is a long-term financial plan. Now, the cool thing is, because we're so tech-oriented, we use something, it's a financial plan, but it's digital, it's online, we aggregate data. It's called, I call it a money GPS. It's a GPS, but it's for your money. If you think of how a GPS works on your phone, Waze, Google Maps, you know, some of you may be using a handheld GPS, but it reroutes you. It helps you get from where you are to where you want to go. It gives you simple step-by-step instructions. And if you get off track, it reroutes you to help you to get there. If something comes up, a pitfall, an accident, the GPS will actually say, take a detour. They can quantify the time it'll take based on traffic and times of the day and patterns. This is what we do for people. We look at market trends. We look at cost analysis. We look at where you're spending your money. This is simple. It's easy to use. It's quick. It's proprietary. Nobody has this. Now, the client doesn't know this. They don't know all that goes into collecting their information and putting it in. And, you know, a lot of times we have to spoon feed the client. What do I mean by that? Is we give the client digestible pieces, but they don't know our financial plan. Sometimes we give them just the tip of the iceberg. It's just a few points. So because we know we don't want to intimidate the client, we want to get them started, but they don't know the full power of everything that we can do. Now I'm going to go over some basics today. And more importantly, I'm going to teach you the concepts today and our philosophies. So you don't have to know every detail about our company, but you got to know the philosophies. Because if you understand the philosophy, the products will make a lot of sense. And you got to know what the companies are doing out there. See, we love financial companies out there, not because we appreciate what they do for clients. We clean up their mess, and that's why we're in business. The reason why, you know, we're here is because a lot of financial institutions, they do a terrible job for the consumer. They only care about themselves. They don't care. They care about the agent. They care about the company. They don't care about the people. They care about profits. And while financial institutions are getting very wealthy, their clients are getting very poor. And we don't believe in that. Okay. So these are some of the foundational pieces that we're going to go over today and that we deal with our clients. And we do a few other things as well. We focus on debt solutions. Okay. Now, when I say debt solutions, I mean debt elimination, eliminating debt completely. We eradicate their debt. See, many companies, they want to bandage your debt. They want to package it out, but debt is still debt, and it doesn't alleviate the concern of actually teaching people how to get completely debt-free. And I want you to understand this. Imagine if you had no debt. You didn't owe anybody any money, no car payment, no student loans, no home mortgage. You know, there are clients out there, they don't have a mortgage. My dad is one of them. And, you know, my dad has a lot of concerns in the world. Like, you know, my dad just had a stroke a few months ago, you know, children, grandchildren, all that stuff. But my dad doesn't have financial concerns, which is cool to see. It's really, it's just remarkable that he just doesn't have financial concerns. And part of that is being completely debt-free. No student loans, no car payments, no credit cards, no tax liens, no medical bills. Retirement. Retirement is you have enough money that you don't need to work anymore. So say, for example, we determine that your expenses are $10,000 a year, which would be $800 a month approximately. Well, if you saved up $50,000, right, 50,000, that means you'd have enough money to live on for 5 years. Well, retirement is just that over a prolonged period of time, where we can show you how to accumulate an investment account where you can withdraw a little bit of it and it continues to grow and you can live off of your investment account. Education funding. This is a big one, right? I don't know if you guys have heard. I mean, you know, I have two nieces, not, you know, And I obviously see a lot of my clients, their children are going to college. It's expensive. You know, I went to Virginia Tech a long time ago, 20 years ago, and over 20 years ago. And I think it was like $3,500 a semester. Think about that. And now that cost would probably be $15,000 a semester. I mean, so the cost of things have gone up a lot, and people want to help. And you can plan, which we'll talk about: income protection, insurance. Okay. You guys know I am a big proponent of insurance. If you knew what I knew and you saw what I've seen, you'd understand insurance. I've had over 65 clients die. We have over 10,000 clients. Those are the numbers. I've seen it all. Car accident, cancer, heart attack, swine flu, COVID, coronavirus, drug overdose, vehicular accident, suicide. I've seen a lot of things, man, and more than I care to. But I'm glad that I was able to provide beneficiaries and survivors, orphans, widows, with some financial relief in the midst of their trauma and their emotional duress. At least they're not worried financially, or we've been able to bring some comfort financially. And I understand insurance very, very well. I deliver the claims with our clients when they come. I always help them get the clients. We hand deliver them. Obviously, you know, we've had a few die during coronavirus, so we weren't able to hand deliver them. But, you know, income protection is something very near and dear to my heart. And it, like I said, if you knew what I knew, and you saw what I've seen, everybody that needs it and has dependents will get insurance. Building your financial future, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Okay, so one thing that we deal with clients, okay, if I had to tell you, okay, and I'm gonna start the interactive part, okay. So Chelsea, I see you, okay. If I had to tell you, if you had to tell me what the number one determinant of why clients don't move forward, are not successful financially, what do you think it is?
Well, probably not having a plan, not knowing what to focus on and where to put their money.
Okay, that is true. That is not the wrong answer. Okay, I mean that is the number one. That is the right answer. It's the general, but even before that, what do you think it is? You're right. They don't have a plan. They don't know how to manage their money. And you can, if you want, you can answer to the chat too. But what do you think it is? Before that?
Education. I mean, in school, they don't really teach you that. I know grown adults who don't know how to fill out a check.
That's true.
So.
And that's going to be more common with Venmo and Zelle and all those things, right? Close. Somebody said education, somebody fear. They're already defeated financially. That's the number one thing. Okay. They're already defeated financially. Not only are people sometimes broke, but they're broken. They got debt. They're embarrassed. You know, they don't believe they can ever pay off this debt. They don't make enough money. Their job, they don't like it. They're not saving anything. They look at their retirement balance and they're like, geez, man, I'm going to retire. And they give up. That's why I introduced myself and told you my story, because I was a nincompoop financially. I was such an idiot financially. I want you to know that. And you know why I'm a good financial advisor? Because I can relate to a lot of people. They're just like me. They make really bad decisions financially, and they're shameful. Think about that word, shame. I was shamed. I was like, oh gosh, I'm so bad, so embarrassed. And so even before I go through the concepts with you, I want you to understand you are a beacon of hope for people. And we have to believe and get them to believe it, that they can get out of debt, they can build savings, and they can get on the path to financial independence. And that's why I always open up with that. You know, how do I do that? When I talk to clients, I say, wow, you're doing really well in this area. Now, if we fix this area, I think you're going to be unstoppable, right? And I say things, I try to be an encouraging, positive person, because you don't want to depress people when it comes to finances, because then they will be paralyzed and they won't move. And getting started is everything, okay? So these are some of the things that we believe in, okay? Pay yourself first. Most people pay everybody else and they never pay themselves. And pay yourself first doesn't mean your wants, it means your needs. And your financial security is a need, it's not a want. Getting out of debt is a need. Saving for retirement is a need. It's not a luxury. And that goes right into adjusting your priorities. Is that you, Betty?
Yes.
There she is. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Is there enough time during the day to get everything done that you need to get done? Do you think?
Sometimes.
Do you think most of the time or just sometimes?
Most of the time.
Really?
Yeah, you know.
I don't think there's enough time during the day to do everything that you need to do, right? I don't, but I think you got to do the most important things. That's called prioritizing. You can't do everything you want. You know, you can't spend 3 hours at the gym and, you know, watch all your Netflix and, you know, kids and homework and projects and all those things and take a walk and, you know, read and do every single thing. So you got to do the most important things. That's called prioritizing. Well, there's not enough money either. There's not enough money to achieve every single thing that you want to do. So you got to determine what's most important. See, the problem is when people haven't prioritized their finances, then they get in a paralyzed state because they think, well, I can't do anything. No, if you can do something, something's better than nothing. If you can exercise for 10 minutes, that's better than not. Yes, 60 is better than 10, but 10 is a start. Reading 5 pages is better than reading nothing. That's what we have to instill in people. Look, people have, I tell people all the time, people manage their time and their money very poorly. And you got to learn money management. We got to change their thinking about money. They have to adjust their lifestyle. Look, you can't spend every dollar that you make and then expect to retire. If you don't have a retirement account because you want one, you have one because you funded it. Earn additional income. Some people just need to make more money. Avoid the credit trap, which we'll talk about. Set goals and have a plan. Okay. Okay, let's talk about paying yourself first. Okay. It's not what you earn, it's what you keep. This is something that we do. One thing that we do, and it's one of the most painstaking things that we do for our clients, is we create a budget. Okay. Now, I am not somebody that does a color-coded budget for people. Okay. I know some people like that. They're very detailed. They're very meticulous in what they do. The budget I do is basically a general budget. How much do you make? What are your major expenses? And then learn how to cut maybe 5 or 10%. Or if you're like me, save the money first. And then if you don't have it, you won't spend it. Does that make sense? See, if I have extra money, I'm not thinking about investing it. I look for things to shop in Amazon. I'm addicted to Amazon. I love getting packages, right? I love ordering online, right? Shopping makes me feel good about myself, right? You know, it's a mood changer for me, right? I love ordering stuff. So if I have extra money, but if it's not there, I don't spend it. So you calculate how much you've earned and how much you've saved. Your average annual income, right, times the number of years worked equals total amount earned, amount of personal savings. And if you divide C and D, your savings by the years, that's how much you save per year. So if you got nothing, 0 divided by 0, right, is 0. 0 divided by anything is 0. Now I break it down pretty easy. I say, so if I see, you know, Betty, and I say, Betty, okay, look, what's your monthly income? And she tells me X numbers, $1,000 a month. Okay. Right. And you know, what's your rent? $100. I'm using Monopoly money, right? What's your rent? $100. And you know, what's your car payment? $50 and this and this and this. And then you have your fixed expenses, because their fixed expenses generally aren't going to change. And then you have your variable expenses, eating out, convenience shopping. Because remember, $5, $10 here, $20 here, that adds up to real money. And most people, they have, and one thing I ask all of my clients, and I'll teach you this, right? It's a dialogue in our presentation. I always say, hey, you know, if I hooked you up to a lie detector, how much money do you think you waste on a daily basis? Just daily, just, you know, stupid, you know, you could have packed your lunch instead of ate out, you know, convenience shopping, frivolous spending. Now, I'm not talking about needs, but just stupid. And people always say $10, $20 a day. And this is people, some of them don't even have the income to be wasting this kind of money. Well, $15 a day is $450 a month. See, your routine financially, it lies in what you do daily. And if we can always determine that people are wasting money. So these are the 3 accounts that we set up people with. An emergency fund. Okay.
I'm going over to the clock.
All right, hold on. Mary Hill. Keep your phone. All right, sorry about that. So why do we need an emergency fund? Well, we need an emergency fund, write this down, ensures that you stay debt free. See, many people that get into debt, they get right back into debt. If you have no emergency fund and your washer breaks, well, guess what? You're going to finance it. You're going to go right back into debt. But if you have an emergency fund, and what do we recommend? 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses into an emergency fund. Then you have short-term savings. Short-term savings are for paying taxes. It earns a little bit more interest in the bank, which we'll talk about in a second. Down payment of a home, buying a car, something, and we say short-term is anything less than 10 years. That's short-term savings. And then long-term savings, that's kids' college, that's retirement. That's something that you can put away and you do not need the liquidity aspect of it. 10 years or more. Okay. Hey, Jean.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Did you get a haircut?
No, it's up in a bun.
What does become an owner, not a loaner mean? Have you heard that term before?
I think so, yeah.
How do banks work? How do banks make money?
They invest the money that you put in there for safety.
What else? What is banks' number one way to make money? Do you know?
Interest.
Fees. So number one,
Fees,
banks make
yeah.
money through fees. Okay. 50% of banks' profits are fees. Last year, Banks took over $34 billion in fees. Okay, so they just
Crazy.
charge people.